The Valerian research station, Marcus Reed pressed himself against the cold metal wall of the research station, his breathing shallow and controlled. The corridors of the Valerian outpost hummed with an energy that made his skin crawl, not from fear, but from something deeper, something he couldn't name. His stolen security badge flickered weakly against the scanner, buying him precious seconds before the alarm would sound. The human colonies were dying. 3 months ago, the plague had swept through the outer settlements, leaving thousands gasping for breath as their lungs filled with crystalline growths. The Valerians possessed the only known cure, but they guarded their medical secrets jealously. Marcus had volunteered for this impossible mission because someone had to try, and he was the best cargo runner in the sector. He slipped through the sterile hallways, following the map burned into his memory. The medical bay lay just ahead, past the security checkpoint that should have been empty during the night cycle. His fingers traced the plasma cutter at his belt. He hoped he wouldn't need it, but the colony's children were counting on him. The hunter's instincts, Zara Thelon, moved through the station's shadows like liquid death. Her enhanced Valerian senses had detected the intruder the moment he'd entered their space. A warm, organic scent that didn't belong among the sterile chambers and recycled air. She stalked him silently, her bio-armor shifting color to match the walls, making her nearly invisible. But something was wrong. The scent wasn't just human. There was something else woven through it, something that made her chest tighten with impossible recognition. It smelled like rain on crystalline leaves, like the ozone-charged air after a lightning storm on her home world. But that was impossible. Valeria Prime had been dead for 20 years. She watched the human from the ventilation shaft above, studying his movements. He was skilled, she had to admit, quiet, purposeful, clearly military trained. His dark hair was streaked with premature silver, and scars marked his hands and neck. A survivor, then. Someone who had seen enough death to understand its weight. When he reached for the medical storage vault, Zara made her choice. She dropped from the ceiling like a falling star, landing behind him with barely a whisper of sound. The human spun, reaching for his weapon, but she was faster. Her hand closed around his wrist, and she pressed him back against the vault door. The scent of memory. "You don't belong here," Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. But even as she spoke, she was breathing in that impossible scent. Her. Enhanced olfactory organs analyzing every molecule. The human, Marcus, according to his stolen identification, stared at her with dark eyes that held too much pain for someone so young. "Neither do you, I'm guessing," Marcus replied, his voice steady despite the plasma rifle pointed at his chest. "This is supposed to be a research station, not a military outpost." Zara's grip tightened on her weapon, but she couldn't shake the growing certainty that something about this human was fundamentally wrong. The scent memory was stronger now, flooding her with images of purple skies and singing crystal forests. Her homeworld's atmosphere had been unique, a specific blend of noble gases and organic compounds that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. "Your scent," she said suddenly, the words slipping out before she could stop them. "It feels like home." Marcus blinked, confusion replacing the calculated calm in his expression. "Lady, I've been in space for 3 weeks. The only thing I smell like is recycled air and desperation." But Zara wasn't listening to his words. She was remembering her sister's laughter echoing through crystalline caverns, the way the air tasted after the annual ion storms, the specific humidity that made their bioluminescent gardens glow. All of it was there, impossibly, in the breath of a human stranger. Memories in the air. "You were there," Zara whispered, leaning closer. Marcus tried to step back, but the vault door held him in place. "You were on Valeria Prime." "I've never heard of Valeria Prime," Marcus said, but there was something flickering in his eyes now, a shadow of uncertainty. "Look, I just need the medical supplies." There are children dying in the colonies, human children. Whatever you think you smell, whatever you think you know, it doesn't matter compared to their lives. Zara studied his face, noting the way his pupils dilated slightly when she mentioned her homeworld, the barely perceptible increase in his heart rate. Her people had enhanced senses for a reason. They could detect deception, fear, even genetic compatibility. But this was different. This was recognition at a cellular level. "The medical supplies you're stealing," she said slowly. "They're for the crystal lung plague." Marcus's silence was answer enough. "That plague originated on Valeria Prime," Zara continued. 20 years ago, just before the orbital bombardment. We thought it died with our world." She pulled back slightly, her weapon still trained on him, but her expression shifting from suspicion to something approaching wonder. "But you carry antibodies to it. In your blood, in your breath. Impossible antibodies that could only come from exposure to our atmosphere." The weight of truth Marcus felt the walls of his carefully constructed reality beginning to crumble. The dreams that had plagued him since childhood, purple skies, singing stones, the taste of rain that sparkled with bioluminescence, suddenly felt less like imagination and more like memory. But that was impossible. He'd been born on Europa Station, raised in the outer colonies. His parents had died in a mining accident when he was 12. "You're wrong," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I'm human. Completely human." "Your genetics may be human," Zara said, her bioarmor shifting from camouflage mode to its natural deep purple. "But your scent tells a different story. You've breathed our air, walked on our soil. Somehow, impossibly, you survived the destruction of my world." She stepped back, her weapon lowering slightly. "The antibodies in your system, they could save both our species. The plague is spreading to Valerian colonies now, adapted from its original form. We're both dying from the same disease." Marcus's mind raced. The mission parameters had been simple: steal the cure, get home, save the colonies. But nothing about this felt simple anymore. The Valerian woman before him moved with deadly grace, but her eyes held a grief so profound it made his chest ache in recognition. An unlikely alliance. "What's your name?" Marcus asked, surprising himself with the question. "Zara Theln, Hunter-class operative of the Valerian Remnant Fleet." She paused, studying him with those unnaturally bright eyes. "And you are Marcus Reed, according to your identification. Cargo, runner, smuggler, and apparently the only being in the galaxy who carries the genetic key to stopping a plague that's killed thousands." "I didn't know," Marcus said quietly. "About the antibodies, about your people. I just knew children were dying, and someone had to do something." Zara was quiet for a long moment, her enhanced hearing picking up the subtle changes in his heartbeat, the chemical markers of truth in his scent. Finally, she made a decision that would have horrified her commanders. "The medical vault contains synthetic treatments," she said, stepping aside. "Temporary relief, but not a cure. The real cure requires genetic material from someone who survived exposure to the original pathogen." She looked directly at him. "Someone like you." Marcus stared at her, understanding dawning. "You're saying I'm the cure?" "I'm saying you might be the key to saving both our species," Zara replied. "But it would mean trusting me, trusting my people. It would mean leaving your mission behind and taking a leap of faith into the unknown." She extended her hand to him, palm up in the universal gesture of peace. "Your scent tells me you were born under purple skies, that you breathed the air of crystal forests and tasted rain that sang with light. I don't know how that's possible, but I know it's true. Will you help me find out why?" Marcus looked at her outstretched hand, then at the medical vault behind him. The synthetic treatments would buy the colonies time, maybe months. But if what she said was true, if he really did carry the key to a permanent cure, Then his choice was clear. He reached out and took her hand. The moment their skin touched, he felt it. A jolt of recognition, like coming home after a long journey. And in that instant, he knew that whatever came next, his life would never be the same. "All right, Zara Thelen," he said, his voice stronger now. "Show me what impossible really looks like." The journey to truth. The Valerian ship. Nebula's edge was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. The corridors curved organically as if grown rather than built, and the walls pulsed with a soft bioluminescent glow that responded to their movement. Zara led him through passages that seemed to breathe, past chambers filled with crystalline structures that hummed with quiet energy. "Your technology," Marcus said, running his hand along a wall that felt warm and almost alive. "It's not just advanced, it's different. Like it's part biology, part engineering. We call it biosynthesis," Zara explained, her armor now in its natural state, deep purple plates that shifted and adjusted with each step. "Our ancestors learned to work with living systems rather than against them. Every Valerian ship is partially alive, capable of growth, adaptation, even healing." They passed through a security checkpoint where scanning beams analyzed Marcus from head to toe. The ship's AI spoke in melodic tones that sounded more like singing than speech. "Zara," responded in her native tongue, her voice taking on musical qualities that made Marcus's chest tighten with unexpected emotion. "What did you tell it?" he asked. "That you're not a prisoner," Zara replied. "That you're something else entirely." The uncertainty in her voice was new. Throughout their escape from the research station, she had moved with absolute confidence. But now Marcus could sense her doubt. Whatever she hoped to find in him, she wasn't entirely sure it existed. The memory chamber. They entered a spherical chamber at the ship's heart, its walls lined with thousands of crystal formations that pulsed. With internal light, the air here was different, thicker, charged with an energy that made Marcus's skin tingle. At the center of the room stood a pedestal holding a single massive crystal that rotated slowly in a field of contained gravity. "This is our memory core," Zara said, approaching the central crystal with reverence. "It contains the genetic and cultural memory of our entire species, everything we were before the bombardment, everything we've lost." Marcus stared at the crystal, transfixed. Deep within its structure, he could see swirling patterns of light that seemed almost familiar, like half-remembered dreams. "What does it do?" "It reads genetic memory," Zara explained. "Every Valerian carries cellular traces of our homeworld in their DNA. The crystal can unlock those memories, show us glimpses of what we've lost." She turned to face him, her expression serious. "If you truly carry Valerian genetic markers, it will react to you." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "And if it doesn't? Then we'll know I was wrong about you." But even as she said it, the smaller crystals around the chamber began to brighten, responding to his presence with increasing intensity. Zara's eyes widened. "It's already starting," she whispered. "The crystals recognize something in you, awakening ancient memories." As Marcus approached the central crystal, the chamber filled with a harmonic resonance that seemed to vibrate in his bones. The crystal's rotation slowed, then stopped entirely, its faceted surface now pointing directly at him. Without conscious thought, he reached out and placed his palm against its surface. The world exploded into sensation. Marcus found himself standing in a vast, crystal forest under purple skies, breathing air that tasted of ozone and flowers. Around him, tall beings with pale blue skin and silver markings moved through the crystalline trees, their voices creating harmonies that made the very air sing. Children played in streams that flowed with liquid light, their laughter echoing off faceted cliffs that stretched toward twin suns. But these weren't his memories. They were older, deeper, carrying the weight of 1,000 generations. He was experiencing the cellular memory of an entire species, feeling their joy, their connection to their living world, their profound sense of belonging to something greater than themselves. Then the vision shifted, and he saw the end. Ships in orbit, weapons charging with malevolent light, the crystal forests beginning to crack and burn, people running, screaming, trying to protect their children as their world died around them. And through it all, a small ship fleeing through the chaos, carrying a handful of survivors and something precious, a young human child, barely 2 years old, who had been found in the wreckage of a crashed exploration vessel. A child whose human physiology had been altered by months of breathing Valerian air, whose genetic structure had been forever changed by exposure to their world's unique atmosphere. The truth revealed, Marcus jerked his hand back from the crystal, gasping. The chamber spun around him as he struggled to process what he had seen. Zara caught his arm, steadying him as the crystals gradually dimmed back to their normal glow. "What did you see?" she asked urgently. "I was there," Marcus said, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Not me, but a child. A human child found in the wreckage during the evacuation. They saved him, changed him somehow, made it possible for him to survive breathing your air." Zara's grip on his arm tightened. "The rescue ship Dawn's Promise," she whispered. "It evacuated the northern settlements just before the bombardment. My grandmother was part of that mission." Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "She always spoke of a miracle child they found, a human boy who should have died from atmospheric poisoning but somehow thrived." "That was me," Marcus said, the certainty settling into his bones like a weight he'd carried his whole life without realizing it. "They must have brought me to the outer colonies, given me to human families who could raise me. But they left the genetic changes intact." "The bioadaptations," Zara nodded. "That's why you carry the antibodies, why your scent triggers genetic, memory in Valerians. You're a bridge between our species. Part human, part Valerian. Fully both." Marcus slumped against the crystal pedestal, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had discovered. "So what happens now? You said this could help save both our species, but I don't understand how." The path forward, Zara activated a holographic display that showed star charts and genetic sequences. "The plague affecting both our peoples isn't natural," she explained. "It was engineered by the same faction that destroyed Valeria Prime, an extremist group that believes the galaxy should belong to pure genetic lines only. They're systematically targeting any species that shows signs of successful cross-genetic adaptation." Marcus studied the data, his enhanced human intellect working to piece together the implications. "They're trying to prevent evolution, prevent species from adapting and growing together." "Exactly. But you represent everything they fear, proof that species can not only coexist, but actually improve each other through contact." Zara's expression grew determined. "Your genetic structure contains the key to creating antibodies that work for both human and Valerian physiology. With your help, we can develop a cure that saves everyone." "What would that involve?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "A journey to the one place in the galaxy where we can safely synthesize the cure," Zara said. "There's a hidden world called Haven's Rest, established by refugees from a dozen different species. They have the medical facilities and the genetic expertise to create what we need. But it's a dangerous journey, through territory controlled by the extremist factions." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing everything. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady with resolve. "The colonies I was trying to help, they're not the only ones dying, are they?" "No," Zara admitted. "There are Valerian settlements, human colonies, even mixed communities throughout the sector, all of them affected by engineered plagues designed to destroy any hope of interspecies cooperation." A bond forged in purpose, Marcus stood up, meeting Zara's gaze directly. "Then we go to Haven's Rest. We develop the cure, and we stop these fanatics from destroying any more worlds. Zara nodded, respect evident in her expression. It won't be easy. The journey will take weeks, through some of the most dangerous space in the galaxy. And once we arrive, the process of developing the cure will require genetic samples, medical procedures that could be uncomfortable. I've been uncomfortable before, Marcus said with a slight smile. Besides, I've got a good feeling about this partnership. As if responding to his words, the memory crystal behind them pulsed with warm light, and the smaller crystals throughout the chamber began to sing in harmony. A sound that spoke of hope, of two species finding common ground in the face of extinction. Zara extended her hand again, this time not in greeting but in partnership. Then we'd better get started. The colonies won't wait forever, and neither will the extremists. Marcus took her hand, feeling again that sense of rightness, of coming home. But this time it was accompanied by something else. Purpose. For the first time in his life, he knew exactly who he was and what he was meant to do. "Let's go save the galaxy," he said. And as the nebula's edge turned toward the deep space route to Haven's Rest, both Marcus and Zara felt the weight of destiny settling around them like a mantle. They were no longer just a human smuggler and a Valerian warrior. They were the key to a future where species could grow and adapt together, where diversity was strength rather than weakness. The stars ahead seemed brighter somehow, full of possibility and hope.